I don't know how we made it through that weekend, but we made it. And if you thought, I'll tell you what, Eric, if you thought Kansas was a tough one to watch, this last game at home, it was like watching snails have sex. It was just not entertaining, slimy, and disgusting. And the only highlight was the fact that we got to see got to see some fresh young talent out there. But as soon as they get going, they get hurt. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what happens with Nico, what's next for the Mountaineers, and then what's next as a fan. What can we hold on to? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. So bear with us while we do that. Let's go to the chat real quick, see who we have. We got Coop and Jackson. Hey, so Eric, what are your thoughts, initial gut reaction to that Utah debacle?
It was every bit as bad as what we feared it could be. Um, I think I was hoping that Henderson would be a little bit more ready for the start. I think everybody saw the first series just didn't go well for him. Doesn't mean that it can't do better because that's the thing. Everybody can improve. As far as what I was looking for at this point of the season, I'm looking for things we can build on. What are players who are showing they've got promise? And I saw actually a good bit of that. I know the score was awful, um, but I saw a lot of offensive players kind of step up. Um, Quite honestly, the defense actually had a couple bright spots too, but the defense I think finally just got shredded, and it finally caught up with us, with missing tackles and such.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? We can't beat it. We're not going to sit here and beat a dead horse and look at the stats. It's like how dead is dead. I mean, and the Mountaineer program right now is dead. And the high point, I think, if you're a Mountaineer fan and Rich Rod manages like 2 or 3 more wins, you should be happy. I'm going
Yeah.
to be happy because that at 5-7, that's what the prognosticators, and a couple weeks back we said Vegas knows. Well, that's what they've been telling us. And we're going to go through the West Virginia schedule and where can West Virginia be competitive. We'll find that out. But Eric, I'm going to ask you this: do you think, silver lining, West Virginia might find the quarterback of the future, or is Rich Rod still in the hunt? Because we're going to talk about some of the recruits that came in and were unofficially signed. But what are your thoughts there? Is the quarterback in house? Or are they going to is Rich Rod still shopping?
Shane, thanks, man. I love the direction you're taking the show. Very good take too. There's no point in plowing, replowing earth. I think Rich has not given up on the season.
No.
I don't think he's making excuses. I think he's calling out mistakes that the team is making and calling it like it is. We just didn't play well enough here. He's calling out very well, about as specific as he can be without throwing people under the bus. And he's taken ownership himself. That being said, I think he hasn't given up on this season. Quite honestly, you look at the Pitt game, and I think we're finding out maybe Pitt isn't as good as what we might have thought, but we saw a lot of positive things there. I think he's still looking for that quarterback. I think if we get a couple different running backs in there that can be a little elusive. Um, Edwards, can run through the first tackle, can make people miss. I'm really, from what I saw of film on Katzer, I don't think he's given up. We get a few players in there, you can definitely be competitive. Last Saturday we weren't. And if you can be competitive in the run game with this offense, it gives you a chance to to have a passing game. So I don't think he's given up, but Rich is always,
Right.
I don't want to play poker with him. He's already looking to the future too.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations. If West Virginia has an opportunity to stay close, and he says this multiple times, Rich Rod, if he can keep it close later on in the game, it doesn't matter how distrodden and how upset these players are, he can get these guys to play in the third and fourth quarter. And you've seen the third and fourth quarter when they're down, these guys are still playing tough and playing with some intensity. You know, my thoughts are, you know, he's definitely beating the bushes, and he knows that this is year zero. This isn't year one. We thought this would be year one. It's year zero. An article came out today I read from the Dominion Post. We all know the Dominion Post. It's the local paper. So there were some recruits in the stands, and the Mountaineers picked up two of them. One Sunday and one this morning. So the one this morning blew my mind. But Sunday, a 3-star quarterback. His name is Wyatt Brown. They'd like to go with a lot of kids by the name of Brown at quarterback. Played at West Virginia, huh? So 3-star quarterback Brown announced that he's going to be going to West Virginia from Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks, California. When I think of Sherman Oaks, I think of the Brady Bunch. But Brown is ranked as 63rd quarterback and the 277th player in California. So, well, Eric, he's you know, Cal, Arkansas, Cornell, Central Florida, all have kind of thrown their hat in the ring and said, hey, listen, you can come play ball for me. But this 6'3", 200-pound kid, he threw for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns his last game, and he ran for another. So he's definitely, you know, one of the better players in Los Angeles. And for Rich Rod to go over to the West Coast, I don't know how he swung this, but Brown's the first quarterback for Rich Rod. What are your thoughts?
You know, I like the fact, because Rich even mentioned in the press conference, they asked him, excuse me, they specifically asked him, do we look just through the transfer portal to build a team, or you know, what do we do? And Rich said, no, look, you know, we can always, you know, pull kids from the transfer portal, but we really want to pull kids in as freshmen, and we want to develop that culture. And I really like that idea, because quite honestly, if we become that program that pull in kids from the transfer portal, basically you're just a team of free agents. And I think you want to build some kids in early, get them into the system. It's great too, by the way, at picking the right players to be in his system.
Yeah, you know, the Monday morning guy was a pass rusher. You know, I think he's like 6'5" and maybe 2 1/4, 230, something like that. But you know, they liked the atmosphere. You know, this guy was getting recruited by Ohio State. I don't know if they offered him, you know, a scholarship, but you know, that gives me just a little bit of hope moving forward, that even despite getting blown out 2 games in a row, Rich Rod's able to pull in a recruit. There also was some articles about previous recruits and what they thought at the Pitt game, and that was, even though some of those kids didn't sign, they had nothing but great things to say about, you know, Morgantown. So, you know, the product might not be what we want to see on the field, but the program is in a good, healthy spot. And when Rich Rod starts getting that money rolling back in, and starts getting the NIL going and developing some, with 30 or 40% of his players are developed from freshmen, and they're able to keep these guys. Don't want to lose them like they did with CJ. Once they become rock stars, you just can't pay them what they're worth. But I think that's what success looks like for the Mountaineers. But what are your thoughts, Eric?
Man, that's actually a much bigger question than it appears.
Yeah, it's like, what color is a Black Panther? But you know, they have spots, and they're like colors, and you know, it's tricky.
Well, so the notion that I honestly think, like, if you let's put it this way, if we could take 3 offensive linemen,
yeah,
and elevate their play. You know, I'm not even talking the whole line. I'm just talking 3. Can you imagine how much different this team might be right now, it
No,
could be very different.
yeah, and you take that injury out, that White got. I mean, they would definitely be a lot more competitive. You're talking 6 or 7 wins, but
Oh,
unfortunately,
absolutely.
yeah,
Well, and I'm sorry, and the reason I point this out is I was just reading an article today about people who are successful managers. And a lot of times people get labeled as successful if things go well. But really, that means that things went well. It doesn't mean they made good decisions. It doesn't mean they, had good, sound, logical reasons for their actions. And unfortunately, that's life. And I think that's where we are here. But I think if you can see, people are seeing that Rich is making some good decisions. Things aren't panning out well. I mean, the injury thing is just unbelievable. We're decimated. I at the beginning of the season, I was the one who said, "Oh, we got plenty of running backs." Man, am I eating those words?
man,
Um,
it's
so I
fast how
think we're.
dropped.
What's that?
It's funny how it's not funny. It's just amazing how they just dropped off lost one guy, lost another one.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody could have called this. I mean, somebody knew something, but the irony is thick. But I think people see that the program's headed in the right direction. I think people see that for the lack of a few key positions playing better. I'm not even saying anything about I'm not knocking the guys. They're working. And I did actually see, I forget our right, I think it was the right tackle this week played better, significantly better. And I was pleased to see that. So the pieces are there. And then the program itself, not even the things you see in the coaching staff, but the environment, the stadium, the fan base. I think we have a lot to offer a lot of recruits.
Now, I want to ask the chat, Coop, do you know if Rod Hughley is still in the mix? That's in April. April is when I think he said he's going to come here, and he was recruited by Penn State, by Pitt. I mean, I think I'm trying to think, Miami, Minnesota. I'm trying to think who else. Basically, Florida State. Everybody wants this kid. So he's like a real fast guy, 6'1", 6'2", maybe $175. Really fast guy. I think he's a junior, maybe a senior. But if he's still, let me know in the chat if he's still coming. He's committed. He's committed. So he is a talented guy, and that's just I have to I have to look up and see the stats for him. But if he's a junior or senior, class of 2026, so he'll be rolling in here pretty soon. If they can keep him, he is definitely and when I think of the prototypical Rich Rod, it's not Brown, it's Pat White. I mean, he's the standard. I mean, it's just like back in the day with Cindy Crawford or what's the Kim Basinger back in Batman days in the 80s. Those were the standard for Pat White is that man. He is the baddest man in all of Mountaineer land, and he was in 05, and he's on the field now as a coach. But that is what that's your Superman, and that's what Rich Rod would love to see. Not the same guy, but in that mold.
You're Rasheed Marshall, you're Jarrett Brown. Can you imagine if Terrell Pryor had come here and honored his commitment? But not knocking Terrell, he made business decisions. But yeah, mobile quarterbacks. And again, I think it's the kind of thing that Rich knows the right player for the right system. I'd love to see this Jared come, but we'll see. A lot of good gets for the program, considering that it's not been an easy year so far.
Yeah, and they are kind of reaching out to folks, trying to see what I got a email ask me what the fan experience was like. How did you like your trip to Mountaineer Field and all this other stuff? I didn't answer it this week because I didn't go, but they're trying to build a great atmosphere, and they're doing that. But until those players get into Morgantown, we start seeing a couple W's. It's going to be rough.